Hello, I'm Gail, and I'm 31 years old. I was married to Drake, who's 32 years old. I say was because we recently got divorced, and I want to tell you why. I met Drake when we were in college. We happened to have a lot of mutual friends, and we got to talking. I fell in love with him almost instantly. He was a gorgeous man with the best sense of humour. He liked me enough to ask me out, and the rest is history. We got married a little after we graduated. I would say that we had a pretty good relationship. We did have our ups and downs, but we always worked through our problems. We got along well with each other's families as well. I mean, Drake's family lived across the country, but when I did meet them, it was great. I only have a mum and a younger sister, Wendy. Drake and my mum got along really well, but for some reason, he just couldn't get along with Wendy. And it was a mutual thing because she never failed to tell me how much she hated him. I wish I could tell you there was a reason for this mutual hatred, but they quite literally took one look at each other and decided they didn't like each other. I didn't like it and tried to get both of them to talk for the longest time, but neither of them budged. It did bother me for a while, but eventually I figured as long as it wasn't hurting my relationship with each of them, it wasn't my problem. And then one day, out of nowhere, Drake and Wendy began getting along fine. Drake would seem excited every time I told him that Wendy would be there when we went over for dinner at my mum's. The two of them had a ton of inside jokes and were very touchy. I was surprised and a little uncomfortable, but I let it be because I was glad that their hatred for each other was gone. One day, I happened to return from work earlier. I was excited to be returning early, so I stopped by the grocery store to pick up some ingredients to make Drake his favourite meal to surprise him. We'd been having a great month, and I just wanted to do something really nice. When I pulled into the driveway, I saw my sister's car. I was confused because she didn't tell me she was coming over. I just figured she wanted to hang out. I got even more excited that she was over. I mean, we just started getting closer, and I loved spending time with her again. But when I entered the house, I heard sounds coming from our bedroom. I walked around the house and didn't see either my husband or my sister. I felt my heart drop. I slowly and carefully approached my bedroom. My heart was pounding because if what I thought was happening behind those doors was true, I didn't know how I was going to react. I had my phone in my hand in case I did catch something happening. Even though my heart was racing, I was surprisingly numb emotionally. Now, when I think back about it, I should have been a mess, but I was actually pretty well prepared for the worst-case scenario. Anyways, I slowly opened the door, and of course, there were Drake and Wendy in my bed sleeping together. I wish I could say that I felt broken and hurt at that moment, but really, all I felt was nothing. I guess I was just too anxious to feel anything. I grabbed my phone and turned the camera on. I cleared my throat so they would know that I was there. They heard me and turned to look at me with wide eyes. I began recording the whole thing while they began scrambling to get the blankets on to cover themselves. "Honey, what are you doing home so early?" "Oh, you know, I got off work early, so I thought I'd make your favourite meal, but I guess that plan is out the window." "Tell me, what are you guys doing? Are you recording us?" "Oh yes, I think Paul would really love to see his girlfriend banging her brother-in-law." "Babe, please, don't do that. Can we just talk about it?" "Absolutely not. So is this why you guys suddenly began to like each other? Because you've been sleeping around?" "Yeah." "Please, please don't tell Paul. I'll do anything." So how did this begin?
"Well, we both happened to be at this bar at the same time. I had some work and she was there with friends, and one thing led to another."
"Wow! You guys disgust me. I'll have the divorce papers ready soon. Get out of my house and my life. I'll be back in a couple of hours, and I don't want either of you here." "Gail, please, please don't tell Paul. I found the ring he was going to propose to me with. It'll break his heart." "You should be ashamed of yourself. Paul doesn't deserve someone like you. If you tell him in the next few hours, you can be the one to break him, but I am telling him regardless." With that, I walked out of the room and made my way out of the house. I got into my car and drove to the nearest Walmart. I parked my car and just sat there. I then pulled out my phone and sent Paul the video along with an explanation of how I caught them. I switched my phone off and just stared at nothing in front of me. Finally, the emotions that had been missing while I found out about everything came crashing down on me. Before I knew it, I was sobbing. I clutched my chest as I sobbed because it really did feel like my heart was breaking. In just one day, I lost my husband and my sister. A part of me felt stupid for not noticing the signs. I should have known there was something weird about Drake's intense dislike for Wendy, and that it was even weirder when this dislike suddenly disappeared. I had also caught them giving each other these looks in secret, but I just thought nothing of it. Maybe if I had paid attention to the sides, I could have done something, but then again, even if I did, I would still have been the one that got hurt. When I calmed down a little, I just drove around for a while. I got some fast food and parked somewhere and just gorged on food. I ate until I felt as disgusting as I felt on the inside. I then drove around a little more. I had nothing going through my head and I was grateful for it. Eventually, 4 hours had passed. I drove back home and I was very happy that I saw neither Drake's nor Wendy's car. I knew that if I saw them, I'd have punched them both. Once I got inside the house, the first thing I did was race into the bedroom and switch the mattress with the one in our guest room. I changed the bedding and deep cleaned the room. I packed all of Drake's stuff and kept them in the guest room. I was so grateful that the house was in my name because at least I didn't have to live in any uncertainty. I then took a long, relaxing bath, and when I felt like I had thoroughly cleaned myself, I cooked myself dinner. I watched TV for a while and also gorged on ice cream until I was done with an entire tub of it. I ended up falling asleep on the couch. The next day, I took off from work. I informed my boss about what was going on, and he was sympathetic enough to give me the week off. I finally remembered that my phone was switched off, so I switched it back on. I was greeted with 20 missed calls from my sister and 15 from Drake, along with a flood of messages from both of them. I didn't care for much of it because I needed to see if Paul saw my texts. He did, and all he replied was a thank you. I was confused about his reaction, so I looked into Wendy's texts. That's when I found out that Paul had broken up with her. Wendy spammed me with messages asking if I was happy with myself for ruining her relationship and letting me know that I was the worst sister. I didn't know what world of delusion she lived in, but she was the one who did this to herself. Drake also yelled at me over text for doing that to Wendy. I blocked them, but then my mum called me. "What did you do to Wendy? Huh? Why did you meddle in their relationship? Poor Wendy's been crying since last night." "So you didn't want me to tell Paul that she was cheating on him?" "Yes. Why would you lie like that?" "Lie? Why the hell would I lie?" "You didn't. That's what Wendy told me." "Did she tell you that I told Paul that she was cheating on him with Drake because that's the truth?" "What? Are you serious?" "Yeah. I came back home early yesterday and caught them. I'm divorcing Drake, obviously, and I really want nothing to do with Wendy." Oh no, honey, I'm so sorry I called to yell at you. I'll make sure to give Wendy a piece of my mind, don't worry. I honestly can't bring myself to care about what happens to her. Don't bother doing or saying anything unless you want to. If you need anything, just okay? I don't think I need anything. Are you home alone? Yeah. All right, I'll come stay with you for a while. Mum, there's no need for it. I'm not listening to anything you say. My daughter's going through something horrible, and I'm going to be there for her. Even though I complained to her, I was secretly grateful that my mum would be spending some time with me. Maybe, if she was there, I would feel less lonely, and maybe even be able to process my grief properly. My mum was over in 2 hours. She brought over a ton of stuff for us to eat and deal with everything. My mum has always been my best friend, and I was so grateful she was there. Mum told me that Wendy was over the other night and she was crying about me breaking up her relationship. I couldn't help but feel angry. My sister had some audacity to ruin my relationship, and then go complain to Mum about me doing that to her? How dare she try to villainize me when she was the one who started it? Mum was equally as angry, but she never called Wendy to check in on her. She said that Wendy should suffer all by herself and talking to her won't hurt as much as having no one to talk to. The next week was great. I got to spend a lot of quality time with my mum. We went out to do some shopping and we spent a lot of our time making these gourmet meals as we sipped on wine. My mum even got me to invite some of my friends over so we could have a girls' day in. The pain was still fresh, but having my mind taken off of it helped a lot. But at night, when I was alone in my room, the hurt of it all would come crushing down on me. I would cry myself to sleep because I would be hurting from loneliness. I couldn't help but wonder what I was missing for Drake to go after my sister. Was I not pretty enough? Young enough? Good enough? I thought we were having a great 3 months. We hadn't had a fight at all. I thought it was because we were getting closer as a couple. But it turned out it was because another woman was making Drake happy. And my sister? She and I only just started to bond even more. We had always been close growing up, but then I moved to a different place to start college and adult life happened. We weren't as close together. Even when I moved back to our hometown, we didn't meet each other much, but when she started making an effort recently, I really thought that she wanted to spend time with me. She was only there for my husband. Over the next few months, though, I started to feel a lot better. My mum accompanied me as I filed for a divorce. She was there with me when I went to deliver the divorce papers to Drake at his friend's place. It hurt to see him again, but I knew that it was needed if I wanted him out of my life for good. I didn't tell my mum, but out of the corner of my eyes I saw Wendy's jacket on the couch. I realized that they were still seeing each other and I wanted to throw a fit, but where would that have gotten me? I began to heal, though. There were still a lot of times that I would feel a surge of anger, but I learned to calm it down. I thought I was getting better until one day, while scrolling through social media, I happened to come across a post that a mutual friend had posted. The post was a picture of Wendy and Drake, where Drake was down on one knee proposing to Wendy. It felt like a real punch in the gut. I couldn't believe how heartless these two were to get engaged literally 4 months after Drake and I got divorced. About the same time I saw the post, Paul did too, because he sent me a screenshot of it. When he saw that I had read the message, he called me. "Hey, Gail." "Hey, I just saw the post too. I can't believe this." "Neither can I. I was going to marry this girl. You know, she was the one that kept postponing getting married. We've been together since high school, for crying out loud. I wanted to get married right after we graduated college, but she didn't want to. To see her get engaged to Drake after, 6 or 7 months together? Yeah, that stings." "Yeah, I can imagine. Drake and I were together for almost 10 years, and to see him move on so easily hurts. I just feel so angry, you know?" "Oh, I know exactly what you mean. Sometimes I want to go up to them and just yell at them, but I'd just be embarrassing myself. Those two have no conscience." "Well, you know what would embarrass them? A wedding gone wrong." "What do you mean?" "How about we get started on revenge against them? Let's sabotage their wedding." "You know what? That's a brilliant idea." "I don't think we'd get invites." "How about your mum? Does she know the truth?" "She does, but I also know that she hasn't spoken to Wendy since she found out." "Well, we can try to have her in on it too. She can help us get in." "All right, I'll talk to her." I was actually excited to get some revenge on Drake and Wendy. All this hurt and anger that I had in my heart could finally go away once I saw the look of humiliation on their faces. I wanted their one good thing to be ruined just the way they ruined my one good thing. I called my mum up after I got off a call with Paul. "Hey, honey, is everything okay?" "Kind of." "So I don't know if you know about this as of yet, but, Drake and Wendy are getting married." "What? was not how I raised Wendy. Oh my God! Are you okay?
Not really. I'm really angry and hurt, and apparently so is Paul.
Paul?
Yeah, he found out at the same time as me, and we got on a call.
We decided that we wanted to ruin their wedding. Under any other circumstance, I would have been against this, but you know what? Go for it.
Yeah, so I was wondering if you'd be able to help us out.
Of course I will, but how do you want me to help you out?
First of all, have you been speaking to Wendy?
Nope, I haven't spoken to her since you told me about everything.
Great. Then chances are she thinks you don't know about the truth. She could send you an invite.
Do you want me to RSVP her? Yes?
That's up to you. We just need the time and location. Paul and I plan to crush the wedding and cause a lot of chaos.
I'm definitely RSVPing a yes. I want to see this happen.
The excitement only grew. I was glad my mum was on board. Then again, she was there with me when I was at my worst, and I was sure I was doing much worse than Wendy when she came over to my mum's crying about Paul breaking up with her. My suspicions about Wendy thinking Mum didn't know the truth were right. A week later, Wendy sent Mum an invitation to the wedding, which was happening the next month. My mum acted surprised and asked her how she was getting married to my ex-husband, and she told Mum that the two of them happened to get talking after the divorce and just clicked. She told Mum that she wasn't inviting me because I ruined her previous relationship. Anyway, they were having the wedding at a local church.
How ironic that they were two adulterers getting married in a holy place.
Anyway, Paul and I met up a few times to try and figure things out. I asked my mum to ask Wendy if she could be more proactive in the wedding planning, and of course Wendy was on board with it. My mum insisted on being in charge of having the church ceremony set up and well handled. Apparently Wendy was more than happy to have someone else take the load off her shoulders. Imagine not even... wanting to put effort into your wedding. Paul, my mum, and I couldn't help but laugh at them. The church had a projector and a screen that was going to be used to project a picture of the couple. We were also going to use that projector to show everyone the video I had recorded. From conversations with Wendy, Mum found out that most of the guests were going to be Wendy and Drake's friends with very little family involved, so they did know what they were doing was shameful, but they just didn't care enough. Finally, the day of the wedding came. Paul and I were dressed to the nines. We sat in the car that we parked outside the church. We waited until Mum texted me to walk inside. We wanted to destroy their wedding, and we were not going to sit outside while it happened. The video was set to play during their vows.
While Wendy was walking down the aisle and everybody was standing up, Mum texted Paul and me to walk in. We blended in with the standing crowd and managed to find seats in the back. We then waited for the couple to start saying their vows. Their vows were all about always going to love each other and be faithful to each other, and honestly, that just made me irrationally angry. But I didn't even need to get up and say anything, because right after they were done with their vows, the church hall started blaring the sound from the video. Everyone's eyes were immediately drawn to the projector screen. Drake and Wendy looked like they had seen ghosts. All the guests watched the video with absolute horror and began murmuring between themselves. Meanwhile, Wendy looked like she was about to cry while Drake looked angry. Once the video was done, Paul and I got up from our place and walked over to the pulpit. Hello everyone, I'm sure you're wondering who we are. Well, I was Wendy's boyfriend. We were together for 9 years and only broke up 4 months ago because, well, you saw why. And I'm Drake's ex-wife, the woman who caught them. Drake and I were together for 10 years until I caught him cheating on me with my sister. That's right, Wendy is my sister. Now, I know we seem like attention seekers, but come on, did you hear the vows they made to each other? They vowed to be faithful to each other, and yet here they are getting into a relationship that began because of adultery. Since they had the kind of audacity to share their unholy union with everyone here, we figured it would be best for everyone to know that this marriage even came to be. I feel like it's also important for you to know that Wendy and Drake took it upon themselves to blame me for Wendy's relationship with Paul ending because I sent him the evidence of her cheating. Just take a quick look at the screen here, and you will see messages they sent me the day after I found them sleeping together. Wendy was always someone who wasn't big on marriage, which was why we didn't get married. She knew I was going to propose when she finally...
As the morning dew kisses the earth gently, I rise with the sun, feeling free, feeling plenty. In the quietude of dawn, where dreams unfold, I find solace in rhythm and stories untold. From the whispers of trees to the songs of birds, I draw inspiration from life's gentle words. In the symphony of nature, my spirit soars, a melody of hope behind closed doors. I lace up my shoes, hit the pavement light, each step a beat. In the rhythm of life, with every breath I rewrite my story in the stars, shining bright. In the stillness of the morning, I find my flow. In the silence of the sunrise, I let it all go. With every verse, I let my heart show. In the gentle beginnings, my spirit will grow. In the hustle of the day, I find my stride. With every challenge I face, I take it in my stride. In the chaos of life, I seek to confide in the power of music where I can reside. From the city streets to the open sky, I spread my wings, ready to fly. In the rhythm of motion, I amplify my dreams, my hopes, reaching for the skies. I paint my world with words, colors bright. In the canvas of life, I find my light. With every rhyme, I ignite a fire within, burning bright. In the stillness of the morning, I find my flow. In the silence of the sunrise, I let it all go. With every verse, I let my heart show. In the gentle beginnings, my spirit all grows. So here I stand, in the twilight's embrace, a storyteller in this vast space. With every word I speak, I trace my journey, my truth, leaving a trace. So as the sun sets and the day's at rest, I lay down my pen, feeling blessed. In the gentle beginnings, I confess my love for this art, ever impressed.
She told me she was comfortable with the idea of marriage, and the first thing she did was cheat on me. Well, at least these two had an enemies to lovers story. They hated each other's guts until one day they slept together, and then, while I was right there with them, I'd see them make eyes at each other and secretly touch each other. Anyways, I think that's about it. Yeah, thanks for listening. Also, Wendy, Mum wants you to stop contacting her. Goodbye. With that, Paul, Mum and I walked out. I heard Wendy sob loudly as Drake tried to get the audience to quieten down. I felt a rush of adrenaline after doing that. I felt vindicated. Once we got out, the three of us bursted out laughing really hard. It felt good to not feel angry anymore. I found out through some friends later that a lot of the guests walked out after us, and the few that stayed didn't make it to the reception. None of Wendy's friends knew about any of this, so when they found out, they didn't want to have anything to do with her. Drake's family, who were not invited, came to know about it and disowned him. In the end, both of them had karma come back for them. Meanwhile, Paul and I were the ones that dodged 2 huge bullets. My mum and I became a lot closer, and life has slowly been going back to what it always was. I can't wait to heal fully and live my best life.
All right, everyone's presentations are done. Nick, the manager, said as he tried to move the discussion forward. Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something. Nick interrupted me and began to speak. There's apparently someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. His lackey, Mike, of course, agreed with Nick. I'm leaving. After leaving the meeting room, I started to shut down my computer. I noticed that an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking, there's no point in speaking up, no one will listen, I went home quietly. The next day, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. He was staring at his computer screen, his face pale. Nick? Is something wrong? Mike looked at the screen with him. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Knowing the reason for Mike's distress, I thought to myself, serves them right. My name is Adam. My mother passed away when I was in the 9th grade, and I was raised by my father. Well, you could hardly call it being raised. After my mother passed, my father changed. He drowned his sorrows in alcohol, and though he still went to work, he squandered our living expenses on horse racing. Because of that, I had to start working part-time as soon as I entered high school. Every month, I went to the convenience store with bills in hand that couldn't be auto-deducted from my father's account. Even though I endured it because I didn't want to be alone, I reached my limit in my 2nd year of high school and dropped out. I found a live-in job at a distant inn. Thank you for everything. The day I left home, my father, still staring at the TV, spoke. Take care. That was our last conversation. Back then, 18 wasn't the age of majority, so I needed my father's permission to work, and I couldn't hide my place of employment. Yet, my father never visited me even once. I kept working just to survive, and before I knew it, I was 42. Years of hard work paid off, and I was transferred to the headquarters. I was thrilled to be recognized by the company, as I thought I'd be working in the field until retirement due to my lack of formal education. Listen up. Our work can change the future of our employees. Don't drag us down. On my first day after the transfer, Nick, dressed in an expensive suit, spoke sternly. There was a reason for this. Our inn was located in a prominent tourist destination, known so well that everyone in the state could sing its commercial jingle. At its peak, we had 5 locations within the state. But that was long ago. Due to financial difficulties and aging facilities, only the place where I had worked for many years and the original establishment remained. I was prepared to lose my job anytime, but now there was a glimmer of hope. With the rise of social media, the tourist area where the inn was located started gaining attention again. Depending on how hard the sales department, where I was transferred, worked. We could either thrive or be forced to give up this prime location to the new hotel chains continuously popping up. For Nick, who had switched careers from another industry to strengthen our sales, this was a battle he couldn't afford to lose. I understood why he had to be strict. I will do my best. Nick sneered at my enthusiastic declaration. Did you not hear what I said? I'm sorry. I thought I was listening carefully. Out of habit from years of customer service, I apologized reflexively, though I had no idea what had offended him. Someone was watching me with a smirk. In this department, there are those who are expected to excel and those who have been shoved here because they have nowhere else to go. You are the latter. It was Mike, the section chief. He's 7 years younger, at 35. But he was called to headquarters much earlier than I was and had been moving around within the headquarters ever since. I'm not jealous, but I can't accept that he's my boss. Graduating from a prestigious university, he has an unusually high pride and caused many problems as a newbie, making things very difficult for me when I was the front desk leader. When I found out Mike was transferred to the sales department a month before me, I was disheartened. Mike is right. With just a middle school diploma, there's not much you can do. Don't even think about achieving results. As if I didn't exist, Nick remarked, "I'm thirsty." Mike eagerly ran to the coffee maker. It seems Mike is Nick's lackey. I regretted being happy about my transfer to headquarters, wishing I had stayed on site forever. Send a direct mail to every company on this list by the end of the day. Nick only assigned me tasks that even a new graduate could handle. What? There are over 1,000 companies. You want me to send to all of them by today? Yes, if you and your fellow misfits split the work, even those with nowhere else to go should finish by today. I glanced at the employees typing away expressionlessly. They were worn out from customer service, only thinking about leaving on time, or were women reassigned after having children, with zero motivation for work. Even Sam, a new graduate from the same university as Mike, who was supposed to be among the expected achievers, had no enthusiasm for the job, having joined the company wanting to do customer service. I don't care what they say, I plan to quit anytime, he said. Only Nick and Mike were highly motivated, making all the decisions between the two of them. I originally only wanted to work at the inn to survive and had no particular attachment to this job. I swallowed my words, thinking I had no right to reprimand them. About a month after the transfer, Nick told us with a frustrated look. To commemorate the 50th anniversary, we've decided to create a plan exclusive for one group per day. Originally, Mike and I were supposed to come up with it, but our president, Mr. Thompson, insists on hearing everyone's opinions. So, you all get a chance. As Nick explained, Mike began handing out prints. Make sure not to embarrass Nick. If your ideas are half-baked, you'll have to redo them. It seemed that they had printed his handwritten notes by Mr. Thompson, which included several questions and a section for free responses. It made sense why Nick had to seek our input, given that all responses had to be submitted to Mr. Thompson. We were given a week to think about it, and a meeting was scheduled to compile our ideas. My plan is to let guests enjoy both the old and modern America. Nick began the presentations. Guests would watch a master confectioner at a nearby traditional sweet shop make sweets in front of them. The welcome drink would be premium tea in a bottle. Nick's plan was certainly attractive. After his presentation, Nick called on us to present in the order we were seated. Just as I stood up for my turn. All right, everyone's presentations are done. Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something. Nick interrupted me. There's someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer. He was likely talking about me. I joined the company as a part-timer and was made a full-time employee when I turned 20. That was 20 years ago, so Nick and Mike probably had no chance to know until recently. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. After that, Nick kept creating opportunities to solicit everyone's opinions, purposefully excluding me from speaking. The meeting unexpectedly heated up and went past the scheduled end time. A few people asked to leave, and the discussion continued with the remaining few. Still here? Normally, you'd leave in that situation. Though I had no attachment to the job initially, hearing kind words from customers made me want to make them happier. For someone like me, with nowhere to go, the inn was my home and customer service was my life. I felt pathetic about my current self. I'm leaving. I left the conference room and started shutting down my computer. I noticed an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking no one would listen to what I had to say anyway, I quietly went home. The next day, while preparing the DM as instructed, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. In his haste to stand up, he hit his knee on the desk. He stared at his computer screen, his face pale. "Nick! What's wrong?" Mike, thinking he should be the first to rush over, approached Nick while still wearing his coat. He peered at the screen with Nick. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Who is responsible for this company? Nick, more irritated than ever, asked, and Mike answered without checking. Probably Sam. Sam wasn't there because he was attending a morning training session for new hires. Nick gave up on getting angry and returned his gaze to the screen. They were looking at an email that arrived right after the end of the working day yesterday. Apparently, no one, including me, had checked it before leaving. The email was from a large company that used us for their annual employee trips. The president and executives of that company also frequently used our services personally. President of the company, Mr. Mason himself, had declared that neither he nor his company would ever use our services again. Well, some companies cancel their employee trips or stop using our services due to financial struggles. Let's just move on. Mike kept wiping the sweat from his forehead with a handkerchief. Knowing why Mike was so agitated, I quietly watched their interaction. Do you know how much revenue we get from that company? We can find other guests to fill the rooms, but we'll lose the banquet costs, gift shop revenue, rental car fees, and more. Moreover, the gifts were supposed to be prepared by the traditional confectionery shop involved in Nick's proposed plan. If it's known that we incurred such a huge loss at this critical time, Nick's position in the company would be jeopardized. Nick took a deep breath, seemingly trying to calm himself. All right, Mike. Go to New York right now and apologize to Mr. Mason. What? You're coming with me, right? I have urgent work to do. I trust you, which is why I'm entrusting this to you. Please. Mike, believing Nick's sincerity, agreed with a determined look on his face, saying, yes. That's Nick for you. Even if Mike went to apologize, Nick would shift all the blame onto him if the client didn't change their mind. Well, it was Mike's fault to begin with, so it served him right. About 3 hours later, Sam answered a call from somewhere and repeatedly apologized, saying, I'm very sorry. Everyone watched to see what was happening. After ending the call, he informed Nick with a weary tone. When Mike arrived at the client's company, he only made things worse, further infuriating Mr. Mason. He was demanding, get his boss here immediately. It was no wonder Sam was exhausted, dealing with such a call right after returning from training. What is that idiot doing? All right, Adam, you're coming with me. If sacrificing Mike didn't work, then I must be next. Normally, I'd want to refuse at all costs, but I saw an opportunity in this situation. If I can be of assistance, I'd be happy to join you. I immediately followed Nick, and we flew to New York. When we introduced ourselves at the reception, it became clear how serious the situation was, as the receptionist personally escorted us to the president's office. Angry voices leaked through the door, making both Nick and me uneasy. Excuse me. I'm Nick, the supervisor. I understand my subordinate has caused you trouble, and I deeply apologize. Nick, with his experience in the corporate world, knew enough to offer an apology before excuses. However, his customer service skills left much to be desired. I sighed as I saw Mike trembling like a small dog in the corner of the room. What kind of training are you giving your subordinates? Mr. Mason glared at Nick with a red face. The intensity of his gaze made even Nick take a step back. Regrettably, I joined this company only 2 years ago and was unaware of Mike's issues. I should have identified his shortcomings sooner. Indeed. I should have realized sooner. No sensible person would come to apologize and then give a lengthy presentation on the drawbacks of not using their in. Nick froze, his mouth slightly open. Suspecting the worst, I picked up the documents that had fallen to the floor. It seemed Mike hastily prepared these documents on the plane, listing the disadvantages. Disadvantage 1, if you change the venue for the company trip, employees might suspect it's for cost-cutting reasons, leading to a negative impression. Reading it aloud half-jokingly, Nick snatched the papers from my hand and checked the contents with a furious expression. Among the stack of documents was a receipt from a nearby convenience store's copy machine. I felt a pang of dread, hoping he hadn't shown the receipt as well. What do you think he said when I asked what kind of nerve he had to do this? I'm very sorry. Faced with the dire situation, Nick must have thought there was nothing left to do but apologize. In a voice smaller than I'd ever heard from him, he uttered words of apology. He said, "I'm a Harvard graduate. I don't believe I said anything wrong." Mike! What have you done? Forgetting his plan to pin the blame on Mike, Nick yelled loudly, even in front of Mr. Mason. "I didn't do anything wrong." "You're still saying that?" "Look at him." Mike pointed at me with a shaking hand. "I was assigned to headquarters in my 20s and now I'm a section chief. This guy only made it to headquarters at 42. Everything I've done proves I was right. So why are we losing the contract?" Having said his piece, Mike collapsed to the floor. "Of course. You were sent there because you had nowhere else to go." Mike never expected to hear such words from someone he looked down upon. He lunged at me, and Nick hurriedly stepped in to stop him. "Mr. Thompson told me Mike is a quick thinker, and to take good care of him." There's no way he was pushed aside. "Don't make things worse here." "He didn't say quick thinker, he said only quick-witted, didn't he?" I don't remember that part." I recalled the many troubles Mike caused when he was a newbie. When Mike was on the front line, his pride was so high that he never apologized to customers. Customer service, especially in our job, doesn't work alone. It brings both good and bad situations. If the front staff or housekeepers made mistakes, or the cleaning company didn't properly clean a room, one had to apologize to the customers regardless of personal fault. Mike, in such situations, would never apologize, insisting he wasn't at fault. This often angered customers, and as the front desk leader, I frequently had to apologize on his behalf. He caused complaints and disrupted operations, which is why he was quickly moved to headquarters. In departments where he didn't interact directly with customers, his quick thinking was beneficial and things went well. But it seemed his flaws were starting to show. Corporate reservations are supposed to be entered into the system by the sales representative. But a quick check yesterday revealed that more than 10 items were missing from the client's reservation. The handover document clearly stated what needed to be prepared. Why didn't you enter it into the system? Why do we have to give them special treatment? Filling rooms near the banquet hall, setting up all the food in advance. Specifying the brand of wine, they're too demanding. No wonder he always angered customers, I thought, feeling a headache coming on. Grouping them in rooms near the banquet hall is for our benefit too. It makes it easier for the staff to set up beds and serve breakfast since everyone's schedule is synchronized. As for the other requests, Mr. Mason suggested them to lighten our load. I didn't know that. Nick finally seemed to realize that Mike was the one who had angered the client. What did you say to them? I just told them we wouldn't give them special treatment anymore. We shouldn't waste effort on things that don't bring in money. I was utterly exasperated at his lack of understanding of customer service. Of course, we shouldn't comply with unreasonable demands. But carrying over successful practices from past stays makes customers feel remembered and enhances their experience. Good memories encourage repeat visits. That's part of our job. I looked down at Mike, who was sitting on the floor. In our job, nothing is a waste. Mr. Thompson likely moved you to the sales department, hoping you'd finally understand this. How do you think he feels now that you've failed to meet his expectations? Mike, tears in his eyes, fled the president's office. I was amazed he still hadn't apologized. You have it tough, Adam. It's okay, we're all employees of the same company. I deeply apologize for this disrespectful incident. Especially after all the care you've shown us. If it weren't for you, Adam, I really would have stopped staying here. When I heard you were moving to the sales department, I was willing to reconsider if you handled it. Seeing us talk so amicably, Nick's face contorted. Do you two know each other? Adam's service is excellent. I always requested him specifically. Normally, we don't accept specific staff requests, but we made an exception for Mr. Mason, adjusting my shifts accordingly. He had personally stayed at our hotel just before my transfer, and during casual conversation, I mentioned, I'm moving to the sales department soon. If I hadn't told him then, things could have been much worse. Please continue to take care of us. I look forward to it. On the return flight, Nick awkwardly offered me a can of beer. It's still working hours. Of course, I had no intention of forgiving him for a single beer. Nick might try to pin everything on Mike and avoid any consequences. While pondering this, a startling fact came to light. Nick, the tea bottles for the plan have arrived. I handed Nick a bottle labeled with our inn's name. They look good. What are you talking about? These are plastic bottles. I had assumed we would use the trendy, high-end bottling tea. But what arrived were ordinary plastic bottles of tea with customized labels. The only unique aspect was the label, which had the inn's name, making it look customized. Upon further investigation, I discovered that a substantial amount of money was set to be paid to the tea company. It was priced like bottling tea. Does this plastic bottle really cost $100 each? The tea inside is specially blended for us. The extra cost is for that. Wouldn't it be better to use another tea company? Or is there a specific reason we must use this one? As Nick continued to make excuses, I showed him a printed email. I informed the tea company's president, Mr. Mitchell, that we discovered irregular payments and he confessed. He said you two were high school classmates and planned to split the extra money. That idiot. Why did he confess? That's not important. You should worry about yourself, this could turn into a police matter. Opening the bottle cap, I suggested. How about calming down with this tea? It supposedly has a relaxing effect. Nick drank the tea frantically. In the following days, decisions were made about their fates. Mike was reassigned to the General Affairs Department, with no chance of transfer or promotion, as per Mr. Thompson's orders. As for Nick, since the payment to the tea company hadn't yet been made, he narrowly avoided legal trouble. Instead, he was encouraged to leave the company, and to avoid further complications, Nick submitted his resignation. Rumor has it that connections between HR departments have made it difficult for him to find new employment. Even though it was good to have those two gone, something unexpected happened in the sales department. Everyone became motivated and united in refining the 50th anniversary plan. In the end, my plan was adopted. We collaborated with the Tourist Information Center to provide personalized guides. The plan, tailored to the number of guests, was truly special for the 50th anniversary. Hey, is Adam's family coming to stay? I immediately booked that special plan for my family. Sam noticed it on the reservation list and quickly picked up on it. Yes, I'm inviting my father. That's great. I might invite my parents too. I lacked the courage to face my father just as Adam. But here, with the confidence Mr. Mason praised, I felt ready. The 50th anniversary plan was a perfect opportunity to reconnect with my father. I hoped to bring back the days when we could laugh together as we once did.